Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. Even though this year looks a little bit different and we can't be together, we are so happy to be here in some way, shape, or form. It's just wonderful to be here today on behalf of PRSA Northeast Wisconsin Chapter to recognize the 2020 Premier Award winners, including Communicator of the Year, 2 Young Professionals of the Year, and the chapter's inaugural Lifetime Achievement Award winner. I'm Emily Deem, co-host of Fox 11's morning show, Good Day Wisconsin, and I'm so honored once again to be back here for the chapter's Premier Awards, which is now in its 11th year. And as we recognize these outstanding individuals for their contributions and accomplishments in communications, including public relations, media relations, and marketing, I'm excited to hear more from each of the award winners. And before we get started with our main event, here is Erin Elliott, the president of PRSA Northeast Wisconsin Chapter. Erin?
Thanks, Emily. It's so wonderful to have you returned as our esteemed, energetic, and new for 2020, socially distant MC. The Premier Awards is always the highlight of our year. Though COVID-19 has upended every aspect of our lives and has forced all of our chapter programming to go virtual this year, it's not changing how special this event is for all of us who work in communications in Northeast Wisconsin. It's the one time we pause to simply appreciate what our profession contributes to the world around us. If you were handed a remote control that allowed you to fast forward to 2021, I'm sure everyone watching this would hit that button in an instant. This year has challenged us, it's tested us, and it's exhausted us. But it has also brought out the best in us, and that has been especially evident in the work that you've done this year. We actually won't be honoring individual projects tonight as we've done in the past, because we're making some changes to that dimension of our program. I promise it will make a triumphant and reinvigorated return next year, so stay tuned for that. But that left us more space in the program to celebrate the amazing people in our area doing the amazing work. So we've introduced the new Lifetime Achievement Award. When you hear from our inaugural winner tonight, I think you'll agree that adding words from this well-deserving honoree is the perfect cherry on top to an already pretty awesome Sunday. And without any further ado, let's get on to the 2020 Premier Awards.
Thanks so much, Erin, and for your successful tenure as chapter president for the last 2 years. Now on to the eagerly awaited awards portion of the program. This year, we get to recognize 2 young professionals in our community who are making a difference. First, I'd like to introduce Chloe Albrecht. Chloe is a passionate young professional dedicated to her work as PR manager at Element and in the community. Since joining Element in 2016, Chloe has helped build one of the most respected public relations team in Northeast Wisconsin. She provides guidance for team members, is a master at creating strategic plans, and is constantly looking for ways to get her clients the coverage they desire to achieve their marketing goals. Chloe is also very passionate about being involved in her community. And here's Erin to present Chloe with her award.
Thank you. Ever since I was a little kid, I have been fascinated with people and the stories that they have to tell. I also really love telling stories. I'm sure my parents loved that. So I was never the shy girl in school, and I definitely got in trouble for talking in class a few times. I think that my thirst for knowledge and learning new things really led me into the field of public relations. I've been with Element for 4 of my 8 years in the industry. Element is a full-service marketing agency filled with some of the most talented individuals that I have ever had the pleasure to work with. I feel so lucky to be part of this incredible team. Element and its leadership have given me the opportunity to grow not only professionally, but personally as well. My director in particular, Tara Brzezowski, has been a mentor to me. She has inspired me and pushed me to learn from my successes as well as my mistakes, and she's part of the reason why I am the professional that I am today. I think part of being a young professional is giving back to the community who helped build you up. Everyone struggles at some time in their life, and we all have talents that we can use to help somebody who really needs it. Throughout my career, I've made it a priority to dedicate myself to some amazing organizations in our community. House of Hope and their signature event, Touchdowns for Hope. I've served on the board for Samaritan Counseling Center, and I volunteered for Appleton's Oktoberfest. I think it's so important for young professionals to not only ingrain themselves in the nonprofits in their community, but also to explore what fills them up. I'm a firm believer that we can only be our best professionally when we feel fulfilled personally. I've also kept in touch with my beloved alma mater, UW-Oshkosh. I've gone back to the university, spoken at events on topics like media relations, influencer campaigns, and community relations. It's been a true blessing to be able to connect with my professors as well as talented students coming into the industry. I'm truly honored and excited to be receiving the Young Professional Award from PRSA. There are so many young professionals in this group and in this community who I deeply respect and look up to. Thank you to my team, in particular Katie Sherritt, who nominated me for this award. I'm not easy to surprise, but they definitely surprised me with this one.
Thank you so much, Chloe. And next, I'd like to introduce you to another impressive young professional, Monica Salmary. Monica is a communications specialist with Fincantieri Marine Group. And since joining Fincantieri, Monica has helped transform the organization in the areas of PR, internal communications, digital communications, employee recognition, engagement, and social media. Here's Erin to present Monica her award.
I want to start by saying how honored I am to be receiving the award of Young Professional of the Year from new PRSA. Just a few short years ago, I was ending my time as president of the UW-Oshkosh Public Relations Student Society of America and transitioning into the professional world with the help of many PRSA new chapter members. There are many people who have guided me on my journey to being a young professional, and I would like to thank a few of them. First, Melissa Wallering, my friend and manager at Fincantieri Marine Group. Without your mentorship, guidance, and support, 2020 would have been much more difficult than it was, especially as a communicator in a COVID world. Thank you for all that you do for me. You are so appreciated. Christine Nicolini, whose guidance as my professor, advisor, and PRSA guru has helped lead me to a career that I genuinely enjoy. Jim Streed, who taught me about ethics in college and set a baseline for a very strong ethics career. And Aaron Elliott, who guided me through a challenging but rewarding senior year campaign and helped me land my postgrad internship at Hebing. There are so many more people that I owe thanks for helping me get to be the young professional that I am. And for that, I'm so grateful to each and every wonderful person that is in my life, especially my at-home coworkers, Drew, Millie, and Natty. When I was in college, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my public relations degree, other than marry a country singer and become his publicist. So I pursued internships in the three big categories in PR: nonprofit, corporate, and agency. Through those experiences, I knew that my heart was in corporate PR, and that led me to my role at Fincantieri Marine Group. I started my current position in January of this year, and what a year it has been. This year I've been able to be involved in employee engagement communications, an employee survey, COVID crisis communications, 2 keel lanes, a christening, winter fleet, and so much more. As part of my position at FMG, I also lead our social media channels, where I've been able to increase our LinkedIn followers by 76% since January. I've learned so much about shipbuilding and recruiting now that FMG is a prime contractor for the US Navy. It is so rewarding to be able to help our employees each day through communication. I also enjoy that I get to help communicate the good things that our company is doing in my hometown of Sturgeon Bay. My grandpa Frankie used to say, "You gotta wanna." These 3 words that aren't even real words, they mean a whole lot to me. Each day, you gotta wanna do good. I'm glad that I get to wake up each morning in a career that I enjoy, working with people that challenge me to be a better communicator and in an area of the state that I love. 2020 was a challenging year for so many, but I also feel like I have grown more professionally than ever before. Thank you again for the honor of Young Professional of the Year.
Thanks, Monica. Well, this year the chapter is honored to present its inaugural Lifetime Achievement Award to a very deserving individual. The Lifetime Achievement Award recognizes an outstanding professional's contribution to a body of work in public relations, marketing, media relations, or general communications throughout the span of his or her career. This year we honor Jim Streed with this award. Anyone who meets Jim will quickly note and appreciate his calm, even tone and the thoughtful approach he takes to everything he does. While those are just two character traits that make him such a valuable public relations professional, they belie the fact that he is a force of nature and someone who has had a transformative impact on the PR profession here in Northeast Wisconsin. Since 1997, he has held PR leadership positions in healthcare and public utilities before founding his own consultancy, J. Streed Communications, in 2016. And here's Aaron to present Jim his award.
Thank you, Aaron. And thank you, Emily, as well. I also want to be sure to thank Aaron and Jenna Bonkowski, her partner in crime, for nominating me for this inaugural award. I have to say I was speechless when I was first notified, which, as you know, for me is quite rare. But peer recognition like this is more meaningful than I can say. It's also important, I think, to thank my wife, Maggie, and my children for their support of this crazy career for the past 40 years, honestly. As you all know, it's a crazy career with challenges every day, and new things come in all the time with unexpected demands and some unwelcome surprises sometimes. Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on your point of view, I recovered from Hillary's first note and got my voice back, and thought I'd share a few minutes of reflection with you on 40 years of a career in public relations. I will spare you going through every year of those 40, but I thought I would just pull some lessons that have helped guide me and that might help guide you as well. So let's dive into that. There's just a few. First, everyone's a teacher. This is something my mother used to remind us kids all the time. There were 5 of us, and I'm sure that guilting the older kids into being role models for the younger ones was a tactic that she used, quite effectively really, to keep all of us in line and model better behavior, the kind of behavior that she wanted. I think for us as practitioners, it highlights the importance of mentors, internships, and those relationships in our field. I have to say that whatever success I've had in my own career, I owe to those who have guided me along the way. At the same time, some of my proudest moments have been the times when I watched the professional development of the interns that I've had from the internship program that I started at Wisconsin Public Service so many years ago. So I encourage you, wherever you are in your career, to find a mentor to build your career forward, and I encourage you to find, to respond to people who are looking for mentors as they come up in their own careers. Someone once said, be nice to people on the way up because you never know who you're going to meet on the way down. So I take that to heart. The second point is one from my father, and he would tell me, if you're going to belong to something, belong or don't. This was a lesson or maybe a lecture, depending how you think about from your father. It came when I didn't want to go to a Cub Scout meeting that was probably every week or something, and I was complaining. But as a scoutmaster and a former Marine drill instructor, my father was a big one on following the rules, and if you're committed, then you do what needs to be done. I think we all know there are people who out there I would call joiners who sign up for all kinds of things because they think it looks good on a resume. I encourage you not to be one of these people. Pick your passion, connect to it some way, and then give it your all. Give them the best that you can give. The third lesson is another one from my father. Leave it better than you found it. You can imagine this was words from a scoutmaster and talking about campsites and trails and things like that. But as you grow older, you realize that leave it better than you found it really applies to pretty much the world in general. So anything you're involved in, try to make it better. Try to improve it. Certainly by the way we act, the things that we create, the things that we destroy. It tells people who we are and it can make the world a better place. I'd like to think that the things I've done for PRSA over the years, even starting back in PRSA when I was a student, have helped to develop the profession and the professional, as our tagline says. My fourth point is stay hungry. Now, this is a line from a 1976 movie starring Arnold Schwarzenegger as a bodybuilder, so it goes way, way back. But the point of it is a motivational mantra, I guess is how to think about it. The full line, and I'll have to read this verbatim here, the full line is something like this. For me, life is continuously being hungry. The meaning of life is not simply to exist, to survive, but to move ahead, to go up, to achieve, to conquer. So as professionals, I think this means we should always be looking for a deeper understanding of our work, of our craft, the relationships that we're involved in, and developing our capabilities and capacity as the trusted advisors that we aspire to be. Finally, and thank you for bearing with me, comes this line from a fellow motorcyclist. Life is short, buy the damn motorcycle. So it sounds a little specific, and it did motivate me to pull the trigger on my dream bike, but it comes from a guy named Adam Sandoval. He traveled the United States on his motorcycle, raising funds for veterans purposes, as a way, if you follow him, is really a way to atone for not being in the military service himself. So he really, a whole life change for him. But to put this lesson in a more professional context, let me borrow from a leadership book that I acquired titled 5 Frogs on a Log. And the foreword poses this scenario. There are 5 frogs on a log. One of them decides to jump off. How many frogs are left on the log? The answer is 5. Because deciding to do something and doing it are really 2 very different things. So in your career, and you work with clients, you're going to be faced with questions all the time. Should we do this? Should we do that? And that sort of thing. Pretty quickly, you can come to a decision about what to do and a path, to go forward. It's important to remember at that time that the work is not really done. The work is really just starting. You have to remember to ask those essential questions about who's going to do this? When are we going to get it done? And my favorite, how will we know that we're successful? How are we going to measure success? And it's important to do all that before the decision makers leave the room, because their heads are in it. So life is short, buy the damn motorcycle. In short, we need to get things done and remember that we need to measure our success as we do so. So then, as Larry, the cable guy, says, get her done, and you'll be a trusted advisor with your clients and a better practitioner all the way around. So thank you for your time and attention. Thank you for this wonderful award. Stay safe and be well.
Thanks, Jim, and we can't thank you enough for your incredible contributions to public relations in this region and mentoring so many aspiring communication professionals. Now, last but certainly not least, I'm excited to welcome this year's Communicator of the Year, Lori Blakesley. Lori is the Director of Communications and Public Relations for the Green Bay Area Public School District. Her role is a demanding one any year, but this year has brought on new obstacles. Lori has successfully navigated the unique challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic and the tremendous impact on the school district of more than 21,000 students having to shift from in-person to virtual learning both in the spring as well as the start of the current school year. If that wasn't enough, Lori led the district's communications through a superintendent transition in the midst of a pandemic, on top of her usual daily responsibilities year-round. Now here is Erin to present her award. And a big congratulations to the 2020 Premier Award recipients, including the ultra-talented and versatile Communicator of the Year, sitting right across from me from a safe distance. Lori, thank you so much for being with us. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, Emily.
Anything really changed, over this time or anything like that? 2020 has been quite the year, right?
It has, yes.
Well, we're so excited to be with you and speak with you. I just want to talk about one of your nominators, what they shared with us. This is what one of them said. Lori is a leader in our field and a mentor to so many growing professionals in school public relations, managing communications during a pandemic, while in a leadership transition and while executing a successful referendum is a community engagement trifecta that will be a case study for her colleagues to learn from. So let's get a chance to spend some time with Lori and learn about where she's been, what she's done, and how deserving she is of this prestigious honor bestowed annually by the PRSA Northeast Wisconsin Chapter. So Lori, we're so excited to have you with us. This is really, a crazy time that we're all going through, but really first we want to dive into kind of getting to know you. We want to know about where you're from, where you attended college, the degree you earned, what prompted you to go into this profession, and where your professional journey has taken you. So tell us about that.
Sure, thanks, Emily. First, I would just like to start by just saying that I am just really honored and humbled to have been both nominated and to have received this award, and I really appreciate PRSA for considering me for it. So a little bit about me. I'm originally from Manitowoc, Wisconsin, so I've spent the majority of my life here in Northeast Wisconsin. I'm a graduate of St. Norbert College. I graduated with a BA in English. And my career started with sales and marketing for engineering firms in Northeast Wisconsin. Eventually, I switched over to communications when I was selected to be the communications specialist for the Green Bay Education Association, which is the Teachers Association for the Green Bay School District. And so that was a very exciting opportunity, as anyone who's had an opportunity to build a program from the ground up. They'd never had a communications person before, so it was a very exciting time. And then in 2012, I had the really unique opportunity to move my family to Anchorage, Alaska. I took a position as the communications manager for NEA Alaska, which is the statewide Teachers Association in Alaska. And so that was a very exciting time. I did a lot of really interesting things. I got to travel around the state of Alaska. A couple of things that I just think are worth mentioning is I never thought I would be on the ceremonial grounds of the Iditarod, and so because we sponsored one of the sleds, and so we got to buy the dogs these little red and white striped, Read Across America jackets to wear for the ceremonial Iditarod. So that was exciting. And then probably another moment that just I always remember is I got to go to Barrow, Alaska, which is the very northern tip of North America.
Wow.
So it's on the Bering Sea. And so it's considered bush Alaska, right? So you fly in, and to one side of you is the village. To the other side of you is nothing. It's just nothing but frozen tundra. And so that was, what was so interesting about that is we went to go visit some teachers at the high school, and they're the whalers. And so in front of the school is actually a whale jawbone. And then you go in and it looks like any other school anywhere else in the United States. And so that was really exciting. Then in 2013, the district had posted the job that I'm currently in. And so when we hadn't been thinking about coming back to Wisconsin, but when we thought about it, it was like, not only did we get to come home where our family was, but I got to come home to the people that I had worked with, the teachers I knew, the administrators I knew, and really the district that I had enjoyed really advocating for so many years. So I was very excited to come back to Green Bay Public Schools.
Yeah, and you're working with a big district, the fourth largest school district in Wisconsin with more than 21,000 students. Now, what has your job entailed managing the communications for such a large segment of our community, both internally with administrators, teachers, and staff, and externally with so many families and the general public?
Sure. So I'm very fortunate to have a small but mighty, talented team. So there's 3 of us on our team, and together we manage more than 40 social media sites, more than 40 websites. We do a weekly staff e-newsletter. We do a monthly community parent e-newsletter. We do a printed publication to 63,000 households 3 times a year. So that's when you never want to have a typo in, right? You dread that terribly. And we support all of our schools, so whatever their communication needs are. On top of that, education has really changed, and it's a much more competitive, education has a new competitive landscape. So marketing is a part of our role. So it's not only marketing our school to new families, prospective families, families who live outside our district, but also to families within our district. Green Bay provides so many wonderful opportunities for students to really find that niche that fits them. And so letting our own families know about all the different opportunities such as International Baccalaureate or Fine Arts or our Gifted and Talented School. And so that's a big part of it. Another part is obviously crisis communication, and so that may be everything from secure the building communication when we have a situation in the community that means that we need to lock down our schools just to keep our, as a precautionary measure to keep our staff and students safe, to larger crises. And so one of my very first that I needed to tackle when I got here was the Preble fire. I don't know if you recall that.
Oh, yep.
And so I'm really proud of the work that we did around that. One of the things that I think we did really well was we created a WordPress blog. So the idea was that people could sign up for notifications whenever we put up new information. And because people couldn't get into the building because it wasn't safe, we posted a lot of pictures of what was happening in the building to really keep the community informed. And and we brought the media in a couple times so that they could show the community what it looked like when the fire first happened, and then also what was happening as the renovations were occurring. So I just felt like overall, it was difficult because school got delayed for 2 weeks, but I think the lesson learned there was we did a really good job of explaining not only why we chose to make up the minutes we did, but why we didn't select the other reasons, and that really seemed to have been very helpful to help people kind of walk through with us those considerations. And then finally, another part of our job is media relations, and so working with the media, they come to us with different stories that they would like to do, and we come to them with things that we would like to share and have the community know. So
I may have sent you a few emails, maybe once or twice about that. Obviously, you're so passionate about your job, but what is it about your career in this particular role that you really enjoy, that you enjoy?
So I would say that I'm beyond my small and mighty team. I work with some of the most passionate and talented people who really care about students and their families. I just feel like I'm very fortunate, and I think their skills, talents, and passion for them really came out through this COVID situation. So I would say that's a big part of it. I would also say that I think the thing that I like sharing our success stories. Obviously, that's telling the story about our teachers and the work they do and how they make a difference in the lives of our children every day is really important to me. And then I think what I really like about this role too is you're always learning. There's the learning from the communications piece of it, right? Because things are always changing. But there's also the learning. I'm not a teacher by trade, so really learning about the insides and outsides of education makes this job very exciting.
Talking about something successful for the school district last fall with the opening of Baird Elementary School, the significance of communicating that story. It was a few years in the making after a resounding passage of a $68.5 million referendum to address overcrowding in the city's east sides of the school in 2017. I mean, that was a huge success. I remember being live there and I'm like, This is amazing.
Yes, yeah. I can't even express the feeling I had standing in that building when we had our public open house, or even the week before, I believe it was, we had the students come in and hearing the students, ooh and ah,
right,
over looking at this phenomenal space. It was a 3-year process from both the starting with the referendum through a year of design and then a year of construction. But I think what was so amazing about that is, standing there for the public open house and watching former teachers come in, neighbors come in, people from the community, and we did that together. That wasn't just the school district, right? That was all of us as a community, stakeholders of our school district, saying that our children deserve a beautiful place to learn, and then being able to come in and just see that phenomenal learning space. And I mean, that just that will always be a memory I will treasure forever with in my work in the district.
There are other new developments also that came in fold for the district last school year, so can you elaborate on those?
Sure. So a couple of things that we had done last year was, prior to the school year starting, we had brought in a firm to do some customer service training with our admin team. And it was more of just sort of a refresher, right? To just kind of remind our staff and administrators that, it's really what's the experience our families have with our school, because really that's what they take with them, right? It's not the brochure you hand them or the tour you gave them necessarily, but it's really how did they feel when they left your building. And so as we tried to think about, okay, well, how do we continue that through the year, right? I had one of those ideas that was either going to be a success or a flop, and I was a little worried it was going to be a flop to start out with, which was we decided to do an Extra Mile Award. So really, how do we recognize people who do extraordinary customer service in our district? And so we put it out there, and some people started submitting nominations, and we were fortunate. We gave over 35 last year, which was challenging to fit it into the superintendent's schedule to get out there and give those awards. But what it reminded me was that as we can never thank and appreciate our staff too much, right? And what was really special about it was a lot of the early nominations were some of our employees that people don't ever really see. They're kind of behind the scenes people. And to see them just become overwhelmed and choke up when they got the award, just, again, just reminded me that, again, you can't say thanks enough.
So you already were preparing for the transition of a new leader for the district, talking about that leadership. Longtime Superintendent Michelle Langenfeld announced she was going to be retiring. Now the extensive search for her successor led to having 2 finalists in place by January this year. And then the school board made its choice in early March with Steve Murley, who was leading the school district in Iowa City, Iowa. What was the entire process like as a communicator?
So fortunately, since I had never been a part of a superintendent search process, the board did hire a search firm. So the strategies and and how it would roll out was really led by the firm. So from a communication standpoint, ours was really just how do we make sure that the community knew where the points were in which they were going to be able to have a say in the process. So from both filling out the survey to we had meetings that we had set up where they could come and talk to the recruiters, to finally coming and hearing the final candidates get to talk and ask them questions and learn more about them. And so in Green Bay, because we do a lot of things where we try to engage the community, we've got a pretty good template down around how we do that. And so, and so it was really just engaging all those different avenues, whether it's, connecting with our community partners, our neighbor associations, on top of your usual website, social media, advertising, things that you do.
No sooner was the announcement of a new superintendent made in March than the start of a global health crisis ensued with COVID-19. What was the immediate impact on the school district in Green Bay last spring, and what was required of you and your communications team to guide staff, students, and families through the abrupt change in plans for the remainder of the school year?
Right. So, obviously when our schools were closed in March, nobody thought it was going to last as long as it did.
Right.
Everybody thought we were leaving for 2 weeks and we'd be back. But so from our standpoint, our role was really, there were weekly communications that went out to our families and staff, so we had a role in that. Creating a really robust web page where it had, FAQs that were time-stamped, dated, so people could stay up with, I think that was the hardest thing about COVID, and I'm sure, all the communicators feel that way, which is, it was such a fluid situation. It changed constantly, and so trying to stay up with, what was the latest news that was happening. So that was a big part of it. But I think one of the things that was a real challenge for us was, it was something nobody's been through, right? The last one was 100 years ago, right? And so, and as a school district, and with, and especially with children, right? Our teachers are always demonstrating how they care and how they support them. And so, how do you take that from an organization of 43 buildings that's suddenly been flattened to virtual? And how do you really express that care and concern? And so, one of the things we did was we had our logo modified. So our little blue guy has a little heart, and it's just, it's small, but it was that thing that just sort of said, we're thinking of you, right? And we care about you. And then finding ways to both communicate that with our students and families. And so I'm sure we did what many people did, which is really relied on video, right? To really get messages out. And then also to really let our staff know that we cared. And so we did a bunch of things to really, especially for our frontline workers, our food service staff, who were so critical in those, throughout this whole pandemic, to really know that we saw them, we recognized that they were out there 5 days a week, cold, all through March, April, May, then June, July, August, standing outside in parking lots. We saw them, and we recognized the great work they were doing.
And with Steve, as the new superintendent, how was it to get him acquainted with everybody, on board, at a distance during this crazy time? How challenging were those final weeks of summer, too, for you as a communicator when district leaders consulted with local and state health experts, government officials, as well as being engaged with the community in open discussions before deciding actually what to do for the start of the school year? What was that like?
Well, so like every good communicator, right? When Michelle had announced that she was going to be retiring, I was out there finding out, what people did for their 100-day plan of, introducing the superintendent, only to have to sort of throw it aside. It wasn't going to work anymore. And if you've had a chance to meet Superintendent Murley, he's just such a personable person, right? He's just friendly, he's relatable. And so for me, the challenge was, how do we really get people to see that? Because in my mind, what was really important was we were going to be making some really tough decisions that were going to have really large impacts on people's lives. And they needed to know that whatever our decision was, that we truly had the safety of their children in mind. So whether we brought them back, that we cared and that he cared. And so we did a couple things, such as we did an intro video, which was even, for that, it was even just simple things like he's a cheesehead, right? He likes the Badgers. Just things that people could relate to about him. He has a great, well, I shouldn't say great story, but he has a story about how he really went through many of these things last year himself as a parent, and having him share that story so that parents could see he understood what they were going through. For our staff, we did virtual staff meetings, which I have to say he did an incredible job talking to an empty screen to thousands of staff members, and answering their questions, and we've done a couple of those. Whenever the media's invited him to be on, we've made sure that he was there so that, we're very fortunate he has like a bi-weekly stint on one of the TV stations, because again, we wanted people to be able to hear from him directly, to get to kind of know him as much as we can when you don't have the ability to have opportunities for him to meet people in person.
It's kind of a crazy time we're living in, but you make things work.
Right.
That's what you try to do.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's been wonderful talking to you, but this last question that I have for you, what are some useful PR lessons you've taken from being unexpectedly immersed in crisis communications the last several months? What has that been like for you? And what information do you have for people out there?
So I guess the first thing I would say is that I think one of the things that has been really apparent is that we always have to offer each other grace, right? I mean, when you're sitting in a crisis, people are just going to have bad days. People are going to stumble because they're not only dealing with this on a professional level, they're dealing with it on a personal level, right? And so that's really hard. I think the other thing is that don't be afraid to read the negative comments, right? And the negative emails. There were a lot of those, but at the same time, by reading them, what you got out of that was really understanding where the gaps in understanding were, right? So, we thought we communicated that really well, but obviously with all these emails, this is something that's not understood, or there's a misconception, and so you know how to fix it, right? One of the things that I've told my staff a lot is, not recognizing that the criticism is you don't need to take it personal, right? Yeah. And what I've said to a lot of people is, think about this. I said people have had their lives completely upended the last few months, and we unfortunately are part of that now by having virtual school. But with all of the things that are going on with COVID, who else do they have to be mad at? Right? There's no I can't yell at COVID, right? And so it's like recognizing that people just need a place to express the frustrations of the last few months, because it's been challenging. And I think that as our role as public servants, right, it's our role to be there for our community and however they need us.
And you probably realize people just want to be heard. They want their voices heard.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Lori, it has been so great talking to you. Congratulations, 2020 Communicator of the Year. Look at your award. How shiny
it is beautiful.
Too. Congratulations and best of luck the rest of the year.
Thanks so much.
And now here's Erin again with a few closing remarks.
Wow. I hope you all agree with what I'm thinking. Even in this socially distanced format, the Premier Awards is an incredibly powerful reminder of what we do and why we do it. I'd like to close with some remarks that my speechwriter drafted for me. Last night, as I explained to my 7-year-old daughter why I was hopping back on the computer so soon after dinner, she excitedly offered to help me write a script. She knows the art of script writing from her past performance in The Three Billy Goats Gruff. I giggled as she drafted the following for me. Hello, everyone. As you know, I am Erin Elliott, president of the PRSA, aka also known as Public Relations of America. We are trying to make the world a better place. Now I will introduce the award winners. These 4 adults: Chloe Albrecht, Young Professional of the Year; Monica Salmeri, also Young Professional of the Year; Jim Streed, Lifetime Achievement Award; and last but not least, Lori Blakesley, Communicator of the Year. These adults have done their part and done their best to help our community to be a better place. By doing these good deeds, they earn these awards. Now I will hand these awards out to these amazing, all caps, large font, people. But when I reread these words after she went to bed, I realized they were perfectly stated. No editing needed. These incredible professionals that we honored today are absolutely making our community, both our geographic one and our community of PR pros, a better place, just like they're making the world a better place with their talent, their skill, their effort. They are indeed amazing people, and we thank them for being with us this afternoon. A huge thanks goes out to all who took time to thoughtfully craft nominations for the many deserving individuals who were nominated in these categories. Thank you, Emily, for being as great at virtual event hosting as you are at everything else. I also want to give a big shout out to our chapter premier awards committee members, Todd McMahon and Hillary Anderson. None of this would have been possible without their hard work and passion. And thanks to all of you who tuned in. Speaking of tuning in, please do stay tuned for the next PRSA event. More information regarding our upcoming events will be on our website soon. That's PRSA.newiS.org. And in closing, we look forward to sharing soon what we have planned for the Premier Awards in 2021. Thank you for your interest in, your involvement with, and your support of PRSA Northeast Wisconsin.